So we did an interview with you last year, so we don't really need to touch kind of on the background of Vidar and what's that.
Sure.
I'll have a link that people can see that interview if they want to kind of hear some of that background. Um, but what I want to talk about is kind of this process of getting to early access. So you're launching Vidar on early access on Steam on the 31st.
Yeah.
And when we last did an interview, we talked about this plan you had for beta and testing and moving into early access of putting it out in waves to very small amounts of people. Um, First, I wanted to find out how that went. Did you find that successful? Did you find it not successful? What would you do differently? That kind of
Yeah.
conversation.
Not at all. I did not find it successful at all. So I had about 500 Kickstarter backers, which I thought would be like a good fertile testing ground for making sure that this all worked. And already that was like pretty low for where I was in terms of funding. But even then, I found like maybe it looked like during the whole rollout, which started, I guess, back in honestly like July, and then
Yeah.
like it did, like every few weeks, added more people. It was helpful for testing on like older systems or things like that. I don't have like a Windows 7 machine anymore that I can
Right.
test on or things. But beyond that, people were not really reporting bugs.
Hmm.
Um, from my metrics, it looked like maybe of those 500, only about like 100 even played it during that period.
Wow.
Which is kind of expected. I know some people have voiced like the feeling of I'm not gonna play this until it's done,
Hmm.
which is totally fine. I get it. There's some people who were waiting until the early access, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then some people who just most of your community will never express something one way or another, or will never
Right.
get in touch with you. And so,
Positive
even,
or negative, they're never gonna.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like 90% of your community will just never reach out, and so. To have like that kind of, I mean, if the game crashed for them, I don't know, like I don't,
Yeah.
and so ultimately, what I would have done differently on that front is, I mean, probably like the whole like periodic rollout was, I think, still worth it just because it showed progress on my front. Like,
Hmm.
I was able to go to Kickstarter backers and say, we're doing this, we're doing the thing, we're doing the thing. It's just like, slowly rolling out. And to that end, I think it still helped in terms of community building, in terms
Right.
of, community management and things like that. But relying on that for some testing, I think, was a mistake.
Okay.
And it should have just been more on me, or if I had the budget, there are places that will do like your QA testing for
Right.
you, and trying to figure out, which ones are the best for those. It's side note, I looked into like a handful of um, some like outsourcing like QA operations,
Hmm.
kind of like late last year when I wasn't really getting the feedback that I wanted, and like the first website that I go to had like several broken links, and I'm like, if you can't even QA your own damn website, like
That's probably not a great sign.
yeah. So
um,
it's tough to find like some place that you really want to use for that, but I think going forward, like in the next game and stuff, that'll probably be the direction that I take. Yeah.
right. And I
Yeah.
mean, you said maybe it should have fallen back on me, but you can't prove your own work. And I mean,
Yeah.
perfect example of in our playthrough, we ran into this bug with Eric's cave being
Yep.
replayable, Eric rising from the dead. Um, and you said that this was something that you really never ran into. It was a rare set of
Yeah.
circumstances that in your playing of the game never happened.
Yeah.
So, you kind of have to rely on some other people. You gotta,
Particularly with Vidar, which is so focused on like on this randomness that you kind of need to get through just a ton of different variants to understand it. I've always known this was going to be an issue and a sticking point for this game. If you like way back during the Kickstarter, I actually take the like risks section at the bottom of Kickstarters very seriously.
mm,
And if a developer hasn't put in something that they understand is going to be the problem going forward, I don't back. because they should be aware of like where their sticking points are going to be. And the one that I put in like and highlighted was QA. I was like, this is going to be a beast to try to like make sure that all of these things are out, all these bugs are stomped. So I knew this was going to be a problem. It seems like, you know, the more I get through it, the fewer of these like little things are happening, like these progress blocking bugs are happening. But yeah, I'm not so arrogant to assume that they're just all going to be gone by the 31st. That's kind of what early access is also for.
Right.
So, yeah.
So let's move to early access itself as opposed to the beta. How have you prepared for early access on Steam? And I mean that not necessarily like in a technical way, but I'm wondering how you've approached releasing the game in early access stage. How you've kind of approached spreading the word. How you're preparing for that influx of, I'm sure, emails and requests and questions and all that stuff. I think that's an interesting, you know, kind of angle on the thing that doesn't always get brought up.
Yeah. So I tried to like write a little bit of a blog post about this on more of a like a website that was geared towards like other devs and stuff. But I don't know that I did a good job of synthesizing like everything that I had done. But basically, so I left my job in August, and right around that time started knowing that I was going to be doing this in January, started the process of getting ready for it, and it took a while. So the first thing that I did was really start like a bare bones spreadsheet of every single press outlet that I could think of or that had covered Vidar, like back, you know, way back when, any streamers that I, thought I could reach out to, any Let's Players on YouTube, any podcasts, any forums, all that kind of stuff, and try to put together like this big spreadsheet just of names and like contact emails that I had already. And then I supplemented with additional research to see, okay, if my game is comparable to these 10 games, who else is covering these 10 games? They might be interested in me as well. Who's covering RPG Maker games? Who's covering puzzle games? Who's covering Steam Early Access or crowdfunding games or things like that? Finding like your niche there. And then at the end of that, ended up with something like, I want to say about 500 plus journalists, a few hundred YouTubers, etc. And a fair amount of that was, trying to do cleanup on like my old information from Kickstarter and stuff like that. So for some of those, it was a cold contact for me, and I didn't, know them. And to that end, I just honestly used MailChimp to kind of like quickly send out a Steam key for them, some screenshots. I put together a press kit, sure. And all that kind of stuff. And then for others who I felt like needed a more personal touch, I spent most of December writing draft emails for anyone who I knew or who I wanted to indicate to them, hey, I'm not just cold contacting you. You're really important to me, whatever it is. So so that was kind of the like outreach process, and all of that went out the first week of January. My thinking was that YouTubers and streamers are going to take a little bit longer to get ready and like up and running and that kind of stuff. So I wanted to give it a few weeks there, and it coincided with the launch of the trailer video and the launch of the Steam store page. So Steam allows you to post your store page is coming soon. Pretty much as soon as like all of your assets are done and uploaded to Steam. And there's a ton of them, by the way. There are so like you don't know just as like a Steam consumer, like somebody who's on there, but like how many versions of your damn logo you have to like make and your box art and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like, especially if I'm in the trading card program for Steam.
Yeah.
I mean, hundreds of graphics we're talking about that you have to upload to Steam for it to, really, before you're ready to like do the whole thing. And the copy on the store page and all that stuff. So it takes Steam a few days to approve that store page. And once they do, you can just post it as coming soon, which is awesome. So, the nice thing about having done that, and I was struggling with timing, and I don't know if any of the stuff was right or wrong. I guess we'll find out in a week or so. but one thing that I was worried about was if I post the coming soon page too early or too late, about like not having enough time for hype to
Mm,
generate, having hype kind of die down.
right.
I have always tended on the earlier side of things. I felt like during Vidar, like with my next game, I might try to like not announce as
Mm,
early as I did with Vidar, as all that kind of stuff. Um, and so I was struggling a bit with when to actually push the like okay coming soon pages live, and so far I think it's right. The nice thing is that you can get people can add you to their wish list
right.
during that period and engage with like the community hub and stuff. And the wish list I think is the best metric that I have now just to kind of gauge like where things are. So
No, I think it's
yeah.
interesting insight. The last thing I kind of wanted to ask you about, in conjunction with this early access launch, is what it looks like now, looking back. I mean, it's been a long journey, and
Yeah.
in many ways, early access launch is a launch of the game.
Yeah.
You'll have
Yeah.
another, uptick when you hard
Right.
launch, but it's kind of like Vidar is out there
Yeah.
in what a week and a half,
Yeah.
So what are your feelings?
Oh God, exhaustion. No, it's
Ah,
I'm excited. I am excited for finally like for this to kind of reach that level of now anyone can get to play it, right? It's always been at such and for the exposure that Steam is going to give
mm,
me. I have felt like there have been so many opportunities for Vidar where maybe I haven't been able to capitalize it at like the best way because I haven't had a game to sell. Like at
mm,
most I've had like an email sign up sheet and I'm like,
sure.
please, put so PAX East when I was there, for example, it was, yeah, please sign up for the email list, but that's it. I can't convert you to a customer right now.
Right.
Um, and I'm excited for really the opportunity to go to these events and say no, buy it right now.
Right.
I think that I'm hopeful that that's like some way that I can convert more people to the Vidar community. Um, Beyond like it's crazy to me to think that I'm going to South by Southwest of all things like in a few weeks. Like ha there's no way. Like 3 years ago when I was like, hey, I'm just going to be doing like a hobby little project or whatever. Um, it's insane to think now that I'm gonna like be pitching my game there. I don't know how this has happened. And one of my friends kind of early in the process, actually, way back during Boston Fig, like 2014, or whatever that was like you should be collecting like your things and like if not making a scrapbook like at least trying to do something. So I have this like little box of mementos of things, really cool things that I've gotten to do just by virtue of embarking on being a game dev. And it's fun to look back at and be like, what, like, why wasn't I doing this years ago? Why didn't I start this like way sooner? And Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm Part of this is like I'm anxious to move on to the next thing as
Of
well.
course, yeah.
My plan after the early access launch is to go down to Vidar to 4 days a week, so that I have one day for like the next
New
project
projects.
starting off, and then see how it goes through early access.
Mm,
Obviously, I have plans for content patches and stuff
right.
during early access. Most of my effort's still going to be on Vidar. But I do need to like start now moving on to the next
Of
thing, and
course.
that's gonna be really exciting. So yeah.
We're excited and hopeful to see what comes next too. So thank you for sharing a little insight into the process, and we're eager to see how it goes on the 31st.
Yeah, absolutely.